The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Good afternoon, welcome to this edition of the Interface Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Today is the 17th day of November 2023. You are live on Digitalk TV. You know, every Friday starting from midday to 2 p.m. we are always here with the legendary freedom fighter, politician and presidential candidate, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. He's always here trying to elaborate more on the issues that are happening in the country and, of course, across the globe. We have this show in order to make sure that we mold a better future for Uganda, or a Uganda that is better and conducive for each and everyone. So every Friday, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is here to just highlight on some of the issues that are going on in our societies, in the countries, in light of certain recurring events, but with hope that this country will be better and will be, you know, governed better, and all the people will be enjoying the country as an equal. So it's a Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are streaming live on various social media platforms. We are at the Alternative Uganda. That is on Facebook, at Digitalk TV, still on Facebook, and the page of retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye. We are always streaming right here, so you can switch to all those various pages, and you will be able to get all the information as we give it to you. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I am a journalist from Digitalk TV. Before I welcome retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, who's already here with us in studio, allow me just show you a book here. This book is called The Halloween Bus, Mpawo Atalikaba. It was written by Norman Tumuhimbise. It has a lot of interesting information about the current government, from where they came from up to where they are today. So, The Halloween Bus, Mpawo Atalikaba. You cannot find this copy in any bookshop. So what you can do is you can call a number. I'm going to be reading it for you. It is 0701 800-212 or 0783 047785. You'll be able to get a copy. It was written by Norman Tumuhimbise. Norman Tumuhimbise has written a couple of books in the past. and some of these books have led to him being arrested and subsequently tortured according to him. So you can be able to grab yourself a copy of the Halloween Bus, Mpawa Talikaba, by calling those numbers. I'll just repeat them for clarity: 0701 800 212, or you can call 0783 04 7785. All right, thank you so much, Doctor. You're welcome to the interface, and of course it's always humbling and something that I don't take granted to host you here every Friday. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Edgar, and it's indeed always a pleasure to be here at the Digitalk TV every Friday, and so glad to be here today. A very good afternoon to all of you who are tuned into Digitalk today. I hope that you've had a good week. In the rather tough times that I'm sure most people are passing through, because the economy is hard.
Yes.
You know, so the other day somebody told me that you know, nearly everybody you see walking on the street is weighed down by debts. And it's about the truth. Yeah. You know, I was in the village the other time, and I was being told women have abandoned their homes because of the circle debts that they have accumulated. So it's a tough times, but nice to know that you are still kicking, and that you are tuned in today. My apologies for not having been here last Friday. I had hoped that we would possibly connect remotely. I was in Dakar in Senegal, where we had gone to show solidarity and join hands with some of our opposition colleagues in that country. And so I had thought that we could connect remotely and still have a program last Friday. Unfortunately, it wasn't. And so my apologies. But you are indeed now welcome to this program. Maybe before Edgar, you kick off with your own agenda, allow me to, knowing that today is Kasiki of the king of the Abasoga, Isebantu, William Nadiope Owokuna, that we are getting a queen in Busoga, and there are wedding bells going on all over the country, not just in Busoga. And of course, the Abasoga everywhere in the country. You can trust to find a Musoga in any remotest part of Uganda. So it's a wonderful day to celebrate marriage, to celebrate love, and to have the Inebantu welcomed into the palace in Busoga. So my heartfelt condolences to the Isebantu, to the people of Busoga, and indeed to the whole country on that auspicious occasion.
Okay, the wedding is going to be happening tomorrow, so please do tune in. It's going to be live on literally every TV station, so you'll be able to witness as Kyabazinga of Busoga, William Wilberforce, Nadope Kadumbla, Wokuna, as he walks down the aisle with the Inebantu, that is Jovia Motesi. So we wish you the best of luck from the entire Digitalk team, and of course on behalf of myself and my family. And Doctor, you mentioned about Dakar and your trip, and earlier on, I think 2 weeks ago, you were in Tanzania also meeting a few leaders therein. What does this trip you make to Dakar to fight for democracy, what does this mean for not only Uganda but for generally for Africa? You coming to go and condone with Sonko, who has had a fair share of some brutality and what you may call injustice in Dakar, Senegal. So what do we make of this trip?
You see, Edgar, I think every black person, every member of the black race needs to worry very, very much because of the situation that is on the African continent, which is the continent of the black race, the black people. I have been saying time and again that there is really an existential threat for the Africans because of the mismanagement that the countries which constitute Africa face. There is a huge knowledge gap now between Africa and the rest of the world.
Yes.
The rest of the world is racing in space, is racing with artificial intelligence technology, when we are grappling with terrible potholes all over the country, and the floods and all these terrible diseases, and that this has been so in spite of having celebrated what we believed was, or what was believed to be independence of these countries about 60 or more years ago. The countries have fared actually worse than they were under colonial rule. And we are indeed playing into the colonial psychology and narrative that we are incapable of governing ourselves. So it's very, very sad what is happening on the whole continent, and it starts with political mismanagement. The economic challenges, the social challenges, the environmental challenges, name it, start with political mismanagement. It is on the African continent that indeed you heard recently, in that part of the world there have been 3 coups.
Yes.
In Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, and
7 in like 2 years, 7 coups in like 2 years.
Yes, and wherever this coup happens, there is an explosion of happiness and hope that things may turn around for the better. Meaning that when people celebrate military takeovers, it means that what they are taking over has been rotten. You see? Just like here in Kampala, I have been party to various celebrations in town. Whenever there is a military takeover. I was here in 1971, I was here in 1979, of course I was here in 1986. And you see these massive celebrations that go on, only for a short while later to get into even a worse situation. So this is the dilemma of the African continent: misrule, misgovernance. And so what we have done is that we are trying to, and these dictators who have destroyed our continent gather every now and again in a meeting they hold, the Summit of African Union. So there is a union of dictators, a union of undesirable leaders that have messed up the continent, that gather up and even protect each other. In fact, when these coups happened in West Africa, they had started mobilizing to go and throw them out so that they reinstate the deposed dictators until the coup leaders also gathered around each other and said, let's fight, you know. So we have a club of dictators called the African Union. It's a union of dictators, not of the African people. There is a huge disconnect between the rulers and the people they are supposed to lead. So the people who jubilate whenever the rulers fall live in terrible conditions. Poverty, no services, violation of human rights of all kinds. That is the situation you find in most parts of Africa. Of course, there are a few exceptions here and they are truly exceptions. Otherwise, the rule is that Africans live under terrible human rights conditions, terrible economic and social conditions, environmental conditions, and so on and so forth. So, these people who gather in what you call AU are not really representative. They are no different from the ones who were ruling Africa before independence. They don't represent us. The electoral processes that produce them are either thoroughly rigged or even non-existent, where you find people came into power by force.
The body you're talking about is the body that is uniting all Africans.
Is supposed to be the center of African unity.
Exactly.
African, not African leaders. What I'm telling you is that what has happened is that African leaders live in the cloud, Africans live on the ground. So this is a unity now of the clouds, not of the people. And so we think that it is important that those who are not holding state power, the opposition, political parties, political activists, align together to create an alternative force and voice on the continent. And this is what we founded in a meeting which was held in Arusha about close to a month ago. We then met not very many opposition actors from Tanzania itself, from Kenya, from Burundi, from of course Uganda, and we conceptualized this alternative voice, so that there is a voice of the dictators, but that there is an alternative voice also. Just like even in parliament, you find there is the ruling voice, but there is a shadow voice there also. And and we believe that the shadow voice will have greater connection with the people than those who live in the clouds. And that at any rate, we can unite our voice, raise it, project it, to challenge those who claim to be acting on behalf of the people of Africa. And indeed that we can agitate in all kinds of ways to make sure that Africa is governed better.
Aren't you just politicking? Because
what is
deliberations
I don't know what you call politicking.
How are they going to be really implemented, or how are they going to be binding at the end of the day? Because someone would say you're just a group of opposition members of parliament, people who just want power and have failed in their country, and they're just
that is fine. That is fine. That is fine.
So how are you really going to be legally binding or impactful?
We don't need any legal bind. You see, that's again where some of our elites lose it. They think that law dictates politics. It doesn't. It's politics that dictates the law.
Okay.
It's the politicians who make the law. And by extension, it is the people, the population, who make the law. In fact, who are the law. So if they change whatever they want to change, it changes, including governments. That's why you have revolutions. And once a revolution happens, it becomes the law.
Yes.
That's in law, they call it the Kelsenian theory of change. So our mission is to be as connected to the people as possible and to become, therefore, an amplifier of the ordinary people's voices. Those people whom, as I have said, are heading into really some kind of extinction because they are hungry, they are excluded, completely excluded from whatever is going on. They have no health care, they have no, you know, and things continue getting worse by the day. So we want to project their voice, which is a different voice from that one of the dictators who have been telling lies. You know, Africa is on the positive trajectory, things are changing, there is growth,
we're the fastest growing
there is
economy
growth of 10%, and there is all this nonsense that they talk about, when the reality on the ground is totally different. In fact, yes, there is growth in these countries, but who is growing? For whom is that growth? You'll find that, yes, there is a satellite economy that is totally removed from the ordinary people, that represents what you call growth. That we borrow from the World Bank billions of dollars to construct paved roads, which translate into what they call growth.
But that is considered growth in Africa.
Of course. And it is. You know, in technical terms, it is, because something was not there, it has been constructed, it is there, there is an infrastructure that was not there. But whom is it serving? These ordinary people, just to dry cassava on the on the tarmac, that's the best they can do with it. Because they are not part of the economy.
You remind me of the malls. There are malls that crop up every day, and everybody's like, these malls are here, but people are saying there is development. But the malls are even empty.
Yeah, so this is what I call a satellite.
Yes, sir.
Satellite growth, satellite economies. And so what we are trying to do is, to the extent that is possible, this is, of course, we are not paid by anybody, unlike those thieves who are in the government, who are enjoying our taxes. Nobody pays me to go to Arusha to meet and to raise the voices of the suffering people. I have to creatively find how to do that. Sometimes get friends to help us to do that, and so we just are trying to do what we possibly can to change the tide, you know. So if we don't achieve what we say we are trying to achieve, at least we are trying. The people whom I have no respect for at all are the people who sit and lament and not doing anything. Or who simply sit and criticize those who are trying to do anything when they themselves are not doing anything. So for me, I will continue trying to do anything to the best of my competence, my abilities, so that there is this trajectory of extinction can be averted. And so I'm glad that this feeling of wanting to do something is now widespread on the continent. We are rapidly expanding the caucus that started the work, so that we can have as many countries on the continent as possible participating in this. And one of the ways in which we seek to influence events is to show solidarity and support colleagues in countries where they are in distress.
Yeah.
Because as I have said, those who are not in the government, and in fact those who oppose these dictatorships, face a lot of danger.
Yes.
Harassment, violations of rights and so on, killings and imprisonment and so on. And it helps, we believe, if like-minded people across the continent rally around those who are facing such troubles in show of solidarity and to agitate for their release if they are in prison, or for the situations that they are engaged in to change, if there are elections, to see that they are more credible elections, and so on and so forth. So we are a solidarity group, and that's why we went to Senegal. In Senegal, I personally felt even more touched to go because Osman Sonko, who was supposed to be the flag bearer of a political grouping called PASTEF, was bundled up and charged with rape. And this touches me personally because I have been charged with rape here, so that I don't appear on the ballot. I was not only charged with rape, and he himself is facing a whole catalogue of cases.
Yes.
Separate cases. So if he gets bail on this one, there is that one.
He's also spoiling the youth.
Yes, and of course his party has been banned.
Yeah.
His health has been in poor shape because as part of his struggle to draw attention to what was going on, he went on hunger strike for about a month, and is in a very poor shape. Nobody is allowed to visit him. He's now in a military hospital. And many of his supporters are in jails. Journalists who write about these situations are also incarcerated.
Feels like it's a script in East Africa, West Africa. It's the same
So
script.
this is why I say that it's the continent. It's a story of the continent. The other day, there is this opposition politician who was kidnapped in Zimbabwe. On Monday, he was found dead.
Yes.
and again,
Very suddenly.
Yes,
The
many
priest.
others are in jails and so on. So it's a story of the continent, a very shameful story of our continent, and it is incumbent upon us to change that story, and so we went to Senegal again with my colleagues from Tanzania, from Kenya, from Burundi, and we were able to meet with various groups of parliament. In the parliament, they have coalitions in parliament. We met with the various coalitions in parliament. We met with the civil society organizations, we met with the media houses, as I have said, which are themselves under terrible attack. And it is very, very clear, having had those meetings, that what we thought of Senegal is not what is there. Because before I visited, I knew there were some problems in Senegal, but I knew Senegal was way ahead of us in terms of democratization, because they have been changing leaders peacefully. They have been having fairly decent elections, or so we thought. And even indicators on all various fronts were sort of suggestive of a stable polity. But what I witnessed, unfortunately, is cannot leave me to have any other conclusion except that Senegal, as we talk now, is off the constitutional rails. It's been derailed. And it's going to take quite a bit of effort to turn it back to the constitutional rails. Because the Sonko's people went to court, courts ordered that he should be allowed to register as a candidate. There is a process through which you register, you are given forms, you take to the population to endorse you, and so on and so forth. That's what they had refused him to access. They were ordered to give him that access. He took it to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission authorized it, and but the people who give those forms from some recently changed law are now in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They are part of the executive, not an independent, not the independent electoral commission that does that. And while that was going on, the president appointed a new electoral commission, disbanded. You can imagine, in the middle of an electoral process, you are changing the referees. So it very clearly derailed constitutionally, and it needs the support of all democracy lovers and you know, the people, especially of Africa, who want a different trajectory, to raise their voices, to act in concert, to use all avenues to exert pressure on President Sarr and his group to change the direction and put Senegal back on the constitutional rails, and certainly to free Sonko, because if he's the criminal that they are suggesting to the country that he is, they will not vote for him. Because people are judges also. That's the judicial power should reside in the people. So if they think he has committed crimes, election is the best judge. They will throw him out. They say, we don't want this rapist, this criminal. We can't vote for him. Let them determine it. Why should his opponents be the ones to determine that? So it's very, very unfortunate, and that's why we were there.
All right, thank you so much, Doctor. Let's get back home here. I'm going to start with the issue of the insecurity that is happening. Recently, throughout this year, we've had a series of insecurity attacks. Tourists were murdered, students were murdered as well. And in light with that, we are seeing schools getting banned. We are seeing people dying, mysteriously being cut, especially in the rural areas, Mitiana to be specific. A lot of people have been dying there. They look like isolated cases, but there is something that they are contributing to. Yesterday I was listening to the spokesperson of the Ministry of Defense, Mr. Felix Kulaije, mentioning that these cases are isolated. It does not mean that there is an insecurity generally. So that is what he was trying to say. And he gave an example of a country with the greatest democracy, also they may say, United States, and says the soldiers or the security apparatives there also sometimes make such mistakes. So, Doctor, I want you to look at it from a holistic perspective of not only just the insecurity of the soldiers, you know, and people dying, but also looking at the fires that have been happening in the various schools. Generally, is this insecurity artificial, or they're just isolated cases, or there is a serious threat that we are facing as a country?
You see, Edgar, I have previously on this program pointed out that peace is not just the absence of war. it's because there are no guns being fired. You say peace, you know, and that has been the song of NRM. The peace ushered in by the NRM, which everybody is enjoying.
People have sleep now.
People can sleep. That peace is not just quietness. Peace must touch on the quality of life of people in a country. You see, hunger, if you are food insecure, if you have a country that is food insecure, you cannot talk about there being security in a food insecure society. It's not security. If you have a medical insecurity, people cannot access health care. You cannot talk about living in a peaceful and secure country. You don't. So security is much more than the drama of active conflict and death and injuries and that kind of dramatic situation. And what exists in Uganda today, this is where I started when we were opening this program, where somebody says that everybody you see walking down the street is weighed down by debt. That person, first of all, and you just walk anywhere, you'll see people talking by themselves.
Yes, yes, it's a reality. It's a reality.
Somebody's walking and he's talking, he's quarreling alone, you know. And you saw there was a report a little while back that 14 million people in Uganda are mad. Now, I think last week, I saw another report that 30% of Ugandans have mental illness.
Yes. It's like they're saying it has doubled now, practically.
So, you know, you can't say that if 1 in every 3 people is mad in a country,
there has to be something
and you think you are living in a country of security, then you yourself, you are mad, you know. So if Courage thinks that what is happening is just isolated incident, then he should be examined whether he is not among those 30%. Because you've seen here in the town, you know, people, a guard pulls out a gun, kills the people, kills himself. I don't know how many incidents have happened just here in Kampala of people shooting others, you know, including the other minister who was killed by his own bodyguard. So if somebody supposed to guard you, and I don't think that the minister thought that this bodyguard was an enemy. He thought he was there guarding him.
Yes.
But that's, so you are being guarded by mad people. You think you are, you know, so in these barracks, there are mad people. In the streets, there are mad people. hungry, angry, you know, and desperate, nothing to lose. He has nothing to, that's why they kill people and kill themselves, because he doesn't see, he is no longer, he does not see any hope in his living, you know. If you have a country of hopeless people, the level of hopelessness that there is, and this is why I was saying that this is not just in Uganda, it's on the whole continent. Do you know how many people perish in the Mediterranean every day on those dinghies trying to cross into Europe, running away from our continent? A continent of the most endowed continents in the world. Of all the continents, there is no continent with as much riches as Africa in terms of natural endowment. But you have hordes and hordes of your populations dying in the sea. And they know, the others know that the other ones who didn't reach, they died, but they will still climb onto another dinghy to try and cross.
Exactly. Even
because
in
there
Uganda.
is nowhere to go back to.
Yes.
So if you think that that is security, then you need to think again. I have told you that in Uganda there should be even no debate about security, because the obvious signs of insecurity are everywhere. It is in Uganda where anybody who is anything is heavily guarded. They are guarding them from who? You tell Courage to walk around in his country freely. He won't. He fears.
Just for disclaimer, Courage drives himself, he's always alone. Just for disclaimer's purpose, I've seen Courage personally and he's always alone, at least him. I think he says it's his God that protects him, but he's always alone. Yeah, let's continue.
Well, but I'm sure he knows all the people that are guarded and why they are guarded. I'm sure he knows. I don't know his particular circumstances, but I am sure he knows why everyone is guarded. You know, RDCs, an RDC of Yumbe, RDC of Kisoro, RDC, they are guarded. Why? MPs. You'll never find that in any other country, that an MP is moving guarded. For what reason? He's a representative of the people. He should be just in his people. But here, every MP, ministers, you know, they can't stop on lights. They are being whisked. From who? You know, if there is security, you know, I told you in another program here, you go to Europe, you'll find the prime minister on a bicycle, going to work, stopping on the red lights with his bicycle. The lights go on, he rides to the office, removes his biking uniform, biking attire, puts on his clothes for the office, goes in the office and serves. When the day is over, he puts on his biker's attire, goes on the bicycle and goes home. That is it. You are a servant. You are just a servant. You are just serving the people. Why should you be afraid of the people you serve, for heaven's sake? So Uganda is one of the most insecure places on earth, I think. It starts with, it's the leaders who demonstrate that. Museveni lives in a fortress. And between his fortresses, if he's to move, the other day I was stuck in traffic for nearly 2 hours because they were waiting for him to pass. You know, they close everything. Even people on foot, they don't allow them to pass by the road where he's going to pass on foot. I witnessed a woman being beaten to cross the road and go to the other side because on what is this? No, Yusuf Rule Road, you know. So this is the reality.
But when you
So
call,
if
you call that a reality, just Mr. President Museveni says that you people are the ones who are trying to downplay the security that is here. He's trying to say that you are enemies of the state, and this he mentioned in regards to the
whom is he hiding from? That's what, because we don't have to say anything.
Because even
anybody who sees how he moves will fear being in Uganda, no doubt. So if there is anybody threatening those who want to come to Uganda, number one is Mr. Museveni and how he moves. Because he moves like he's on a war front, you know?
He's the president.
But he's not the only president, so the other countries also have presidents. There was a time when they were still negotiating the East African community. I was still serving in government at that time. And I was in Arusha in one of those meetings that were negotiating the treaty. And the presidents were coming to Arusha. And he chose to come by road, 7. We were so embarrassed, we didn't know where to go in Arusha. Because there were other presidents there. There was President Mbeki for South Africa, who was the president of a superpower, president of Kenya, president of Tanzania. They were there, you know, interacting with others. They did not have all this security. So then he arrives with his missiles and aircraft guns and and the jeeps with all these soldiers and people said, what? This man is coming to war. You know, so if there is anybody who threatens, who frightens people to come to Uganda, it's not what I saw him quarreling that
the USA.
I saw him quarreling that countries had warned their citizens.
Yes, USA.
Of course.
That.
They don't
even
even
interfering.
They don't even need to warn them. The biggest warning is Museveni himself and how he conducts himself. And his other lieutenants, his other people he makes rules with, you know. If anybody sees, you know, and you can't miss them because now they are everywhere, pushing everybody off the road, moving on the wrong side of the road because this one there is a lot of traffic, then they move to the other one and they are racing, and you know, you can't miss them. Then you know that this cannot be a country that is safe. And in fact, people who come here must be congratulated for their courage. Because frankly, if you go to any country and you see that kind of behavior from the leaders, you have every reason to run away.
But can you imagine 2 tourists coming to your country to enjoy their honeymoon and they go back in body bags?
Yeah.
That is really
You see,
sad.
if it was an incident, you know, like Kuraija was trying to say, you see, if the insecurity in Western Uganda, if it was an incident, then maybe every reasonable person could say, well, this seems to have been a madman who did this, and it's not likely to be repeated. But if you yourself, you are saying it's ADF, ADF is an organization that has been here for now nearly 20 years, you know, and has been killing people, and you are not able to deal with it. And it's you who is saying this is ADF. And it's you who said ADF had killed so many children near your barracks. even these tourists where they died, it's not far from where the soldiers were. And you are not able to, even this whole story of saying, you know, now we have captured the killer on the lake.
Yeah, in Jomvu.
On the lake, you know, it cannot inspire people to think that yes, this is definitely the killer.
But I think, Doctor, you just have mistrust in everything they say.
It's not mistrust.
It's
not mistrust. You see, this is not, as you know, going to be the first of such incidents. So which one has been convicted? Tell me. It's not enough to label people that this is now ADF, you know, we have arrested them. What is more important is to produce evidence that everybody indeed accepts that yes, they now got, they got this. Nothing. And you remember how much money, you know, every time that happens, Mr. Museveni will always find a way now of emptying the treasury. I'm now lists Bazukuru now. I have discovered where the gap was. We are now going to install cameras on roads. We are going to, I don't know, do this, do that. And money flows. That's why even some people think that actually the security people can cause some of these things so that the gates of the bank can be opened to deal with the security.
At the cost of someone.
Of course, to deal with the ADF. A bomb has been thrown in Komamboga, a bomb has been, ADF is now in town, and money goes and so on, and after a while, no conviction.
Yes, that's true.
Tell me who is convicted. So, we have, it's not just saying you mistrust. It's the reality that any reasonable person cannot trust these people. Because you inspire the trust yourself by what you do. You know, you inspire the trust. Security agencies that have been telling lies, you know, we've captured you, so we've captured Kyagulanyi with a gun. That's why he's a terrorist. So, was he a terrorist or not? You know, myself, you know, how many times they have, that's how my brother even died, that he's a PRA rebel. PRA rebel, he died after 5 years in prison. So how do you trust such criminals? They are criminals. For all intents and purposes, that's the only description one can give them. They are criminals in charge of our state.
Well, you call them criminals, and that brings me to another thing, that the people you're calling criminals are actually, these days there's evidence to suggest that they really are, because the people in uniform have been caught on camera not once or twice robbing, let me say people wearing army fatigue have been found robbing and indulging themselves into things that are really not good with the citizens. And Doctor, from the break, I want us to just talk about that. The people we think, we entrusted with the power to be able to protect us, to serve us, to protect our country, actually now turning the guns on the citizenry. What does that mean? Ladies and gentlemen, you're still watching The Interface. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. When we come back from that short commercial break, we'll start on that issue. But of course, we also talk about the launch of the NUP offices. And of course, Dr. Kizza Besigye gave a keynote speech. We'll be watching that video or a few snippets from what he said. And of course, later on, we shall also talk about the Balalo question. Feel free to just send us those messages. We are at The Alternative Uganda on Facebook, Digitalk TV on Facebook, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye on Facebook as well. You can just send in a comment and we'll be able to receive it right here. Let's go for a short commercial break. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. This is Digitalk TV.
Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Les Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices, and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check out at Les Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Les Up, craft your own footprints.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704 11 1720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings. Hello, beautiful people. You're welcome to the Snap Talk with your girl Teddy Tenjo every Saturday, right from 6 to 7.
Twajirwa flat tam. Tukyayambala ko kugoyo obutukwata.
Wajana body shaming. Speak up. Gendo ba confronting gay. Obagambe ekyo kyemukola si kirungi.
Towerabira nti tuli wano ku the Alternative Dig Talk. Mukwano gwange gwaliye. Topic kiki wandiyagadde twogereko. Is it about family?
Nga kize tata wange amanyira nkola n'obuvunanyizibwa nyina bungi. Era agezaako n'anyamba yambako yanda.
Naye kumukubira kumubuuzaako. Noga mama we bali kunzaala.
Is it outside family? Is it society? Oh, could it be relationships?
Come and visit, call me. Simanyanga I miss you bichi. Especially embeera y'obudde sinungi.
Naye n'omuntu akwagalira mu season aba takwagala ze nkubuulira.
Just be commenting nga topic yona gyandiyagadde twogereko tujja kwa tujogera kwano ku the Alternative Dig Talk ku share enganzi the Snap Talk.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back. We are still watching the interface. This book is called The Halloween Bus, Mpawa Talikava. It was written by Norman Tumuhimbese. And of course, he talks about various things that you should know about this government before they came into power, the process they had when they were in the bush, and of course, how Uganda is looking like right now. So it's called The Halloween Bus, and you can get it. You can grab a copy by calling this number. You won't find it in any bookshop because the owner says that the state has been procuring all these books from the various bookshops. So just call this number, 0701 800 212, or if you can call this number also 0783 047785. You'll be able to grab yourself a copy of the Halloween Bus Mpawa Talikava. Very, very interesting book. I've read it myself. Really, really insightful. It gives you some stories and takes you through the minds of the people who were liberating this country throughout 1980 to 1986. So it highlights some of the highs and lows therein, and it's something that I think us as the young people can learn from. And still with Dr. Kizza Besigye, we are into the second and final hour of this particular show. Remember, we come here not to just politique, but we're trying to find solutions to the direction where Uganda is going. So we feel that Uganda is not really going in the right direction or where it should be going. So we try to talk about these issues to help you make informed decisions, but to also inform you of the realness of what is happening in this country. Or, you know, it's something that we should really be talking about. It's something that is pertinent. So we try to talk about these issues in light of what's happening, and of course thinking that we shall mold and build a better Uganda. Doctor, before we went for a break, we're still talking about the insecurity challenge, and the problem here is the people who are supposed to be protecting Ugandans, ironically, they're the ones robbing from them. They're the ones, you know, disenfranchising them. I thought that at this moment we would say our security forces they know what to do, but this thing is going on over and over. And we're going back to the old times of, if you have a gun, it's a job. This has not been happening just this year. Even last year you had people in army uniform breaking into prisons and picking their colleagues, people making roadblocks and collecting resources from Ugandans. Is this the UPDF? We have always praised, saying, hey, the UPDF is one of those bodies. We have always praised it.
Yeah, in fact, first of all, UPDF is my force. I am an officer of the UPDF, 00RO098. So I have an emotional attachment to the military also. And I must say, Edgar, that considering everything, even now, I salute the UPDF officers and men for really a high level of discipline. I do. Because in spite of the incidents you are talking about, I would have expected much, much worse. An ordinary soldier gets about the equivalent of $100 in salary. Yeah. You know, about 400,000 shillings. They have nowhere to stay. They rent rooms in the centers where they are supposed to be residing. If they are not in those huts they call Mama Ingia Pole, you know, shacks where most live. But because those are not indeed conducive for children and family, most soldiers, even when in a place where they have those Mama Ingia Poles, will try to rent a room for their family, for their wife and children. A room that goes for anywhere between 100 and 100,000 and maybe 200,000.
It's like $50.
Yes, which is half their pay.
Exactly.
We also if those kids are sick, they will also go where you go to look for health care. They will need money. The food they take, they will need to buy their food. They will need, it's simply not tenable that they can live under the conditions in which they live. And therefore, you know, if it was not an extreme level of discipline, I would have expected much, much worse than we are seeing today. So I personally salute them that they are still able to live even though we don't provide them a livelihood. They live without a livelihood being availed to them. And even where, you know, like the ones who got served in foreign missions, like in Somalia. In Somalia, it's the UN that pays their allowances. But shamelessly, our country cannot pass on what they are paid to them. They get a small portion of what the UN gives them. And they know this. And yet, they, as I have said, they somehow remain in an orderly and disciplined shape. So, yes, there will be some, and that number is increasing indeed, of those who cannot, you know, continue to persevere in those kinds of situations, and who will go out to fend for themselves using the guns available to them. And those are the ones that you are talking about, who erect illegal roadblocks and rob and do all kinds of things. It will get worse. I have no doubt it will get worse. Why? Because you see, whereas in human nature, people are willing and able to persevere under tough conditions, like we did in the bush. You know, we would spend days without food, and you know, we had no clothes, no blankets, no this, no that, but we would persevere because everybody was in a similar sacrificial form.
Exactly.
They would not see those living in flats and others living in
the bush,
in shacks, you know. But now that distinction is very much evident. That you will see some living actually in opulence, and exemplified by none other than one of their leaders who hosts you know, opulent birthday parties around when people's children are hungry. You see, that, you know, and this is why I was telling you, you know, that the people that I characterize really as criminals that govern most of these countries live in the clouds when the people are you know, on the ground or below the ground, is precisely evident there, you know, with these soldiers. And that is not tenable, that you will have, if they were asked to continue, you know, tightening their belts and sacrificing in the way that they are, when it is uniform, that would be a different thing. But this is not uniform. And even the non-uniformity is not uniform, because you'll find there is a lieutenant who is living better than a general. and has all kinds of things, and you know, those types will also be so they went to training. You know, we go to train. We were training together. We have just been commissioned together. We should be having similar circumstances. It's not that, you know, we are talking about a general who came from the bush or who has been in the force for 20, 30 years. We came together, you know, and all of a sudden you see the other one deployed in a different place. You don't know what advised such a deployment where you are not access, you cannot go. You start seeing them having a lavish wedding, has bought a house, has done this, has done that, and you are there. You are his cosmate.
You're still in the uniport.
you are
in the barracks.
Even in the uniport you don't have, you know, and you are saying, you know, so how does this happen? And so the way our security forces are being run is extremely dangerous, if you ask me. And I wrote actually to the leaders of the military before I retired. I wrote to point out to them that they had set the UPDF on a very dangerous path of running a national force with so much irregularity. National forces must of necessity be regular forces. In other words, they must be governed by, and scrupulously governed by same laws for everybody, same orders. There is an order. If it's a standing order, it's a standing order for everybody, and must be scrupulously observed. And regulations, that's why they are called regular. They are scrupulously governed by regulations. So, if there are terms and conditions of officers, they must be terms and conditions of all officers. That if I have served for 3 years and I have done within the 3 years what I'm expected to do, I expect to be promoted to this rank, unless something that is explainable has happened that stops that happening. Otherwise, if you see somebody is promoted, you don't see any difference between that person and yourself. The obvious question, whether you ask it openly or not, is what was the basis?
Exactly.
And indeed, because nobody is providing the basis, you start attaching a basis to it. So it's because
maybe it comes from certain place.
Yes, and that's where.
But you see, isn't that dividing the
Yes,
force?
but that's where
which can culminate into
something
very bad.
Absolutely. So this is why I was saying, you know, a force must have regular application. You know how you get into it, and everybody must use the same door to get into the force. You know how you advance within it, and everybody must advance by the same steps, you know? And you know how you are, how deployment is determined, how promotion is determined, how who goes to a course is determined, how there must be predictability, which is not there in this force. And that is why, you know, I've said that we are lucky to be even where we are. It could be much, much worse.
Okay.
And I dare say it is going to become worse. It is definitely going to become worse.
Saddening, as you said. Let's delve into another conversation, Doctor, and this is about the opposition. Recently, before, I think a fortnight ago or 3 weeks ago, you launched, you were in fact the guest of honor at the launch of the new NUP offices. Many people have perceived this in their own way. Some think this is a win for NUP and a win for opposition. Some think that the country needs to be liberated before we start structures such as building political bases, offices, where people are going to be comfortable. So Doctor, who do you think stands to win? Or what does the launch of such offices and NUP, in fact, NUP has galvanized a lot of energy. In Parliament, they're doing things, we're launching. You feel like there's at least an activity in the opposition camp. NUP is trying to forge something, and of course there's a merger. We see you, you know, coming at these events, trying to forge some sort of unity in the opposition forces. Where do you see this going?
Well, first, maybe again I would take this opportunity to congratulate the leaders of the National Unity Platform for having, you know, made a home for the party. And I think having a home is important. And, you know, NUP is the youngest party that is in the country. So for a toddler to have a house
3 years
cannot be anything but commendable, especially when the judges don't even have the mama India pole.
Doctor, before you continue on that note, allow me first listen to what play the video of the words you spoke, the keynote speech that you gave at the NUP launch. Let's just get a snippet of what he said, then we just come and build that conversation from here. He says that the NRM, or not the NRM, the judges, have not yet built, yet the toddler already has a house. Let's play this video and we'll be right back.
Buli munnayuganda abamu mpulira abagamba nze siri wa byabufuzi kitegeeza nti oli musiru. Kati ffe abangi okusigala nga bakyatuwanga ebbanga lino lyonna balina okutukutulamu bitundu bingi nnyo, ate oba oli awo tube nga twekuba ffekka. Mu kifo ky'okutunuulira eyatuteeka mu mbeera eno ng'otunuulira munno omuwambe nti ye mulabewo. Simanyi tuli ffenna. Bwe tubanga tuli akuwangula omulabe n'olweto, tulina okwegatta tusigale nga tuli kitole, tulwanire wamu bbega ku bbega okutuusa lwe tutuuka gye tukola ki? Kitulaga. Buli munnayuganda abamu mpulira abagamba nze siri wa byabufuzi kitegeeza nti oli musiru. Bw'oba toli wa byabufuzi kitegeeza nti oli musiru just. Kubanga omusolo gw'osasula ani agugereka byabufuzi. Omusolo gw'osasula kyegukola ani akisalawo byabufuzi. So bw'ogamba nti siri munnabyabufuzi oyo manya bumanya nti ono musiri awedde emirimu. So buli omu, let everyone, whether you are civil society, the struggle we are on is not a partisan struggle. olutalo bwe tuliko lwakufuna eggwanga si lwakulwanirira bibiina leero simanyi tukitegeera leero lwakufuna ki eggwanga nabagambye kuva 1900 na leero ng'eggwanga teriri mu mikono gyaffe abafudde lisiti ezo z'olaba buli kibiina kiri mu lisiti ey'abakoze eki ey'abafu ababuze abakoze eki njagala kubategeeza ng'amaliriza nti n'abafudde n'okutuusa kati newankubadde omulimu gwe twewa tegunakutuukirira naye tegubadde gwa bwereere n'okutuuka kati waliwo we tukola ki waliwo we tutuuse kulaga nti n'ab'ebweru bamaze okulaba nti kino tekikyalina gye kikola ki tekidda ate oba atandise n'okuleeta oli mutabanyiwe era abaNRM ndowooza batuufu kubanga nawulidde abaNRM nga bagamba nti ate waakiri muzeeyo so bino byonna bubonero obukulaga ti ekiseera kikoze eki ekiseera kiweddeyo.
At the launch of the NUP offices, that was like I think 3 or 2 weeks ago. I've known you to be a very great orator, but the words you speak here are very important, and I personally feel they resonate with the reality of the opposition, Doctor. But is this something that we can achieve, or you can achieve as the opposition?
Well, very certainly it's achievable, and you know, like I was saying. I think first, in terms of congratulating the NUP, that they have a home. They are the youngest party. But those who have been running the country, not just running a party, but running the country for nearly 40 years, don't even have a kiosk named after them. So which shows the mindset of the people that govern this country. You know, their mindset is that of in my language they would call them abashahuzi. I don't know what you know. This would be people who gather things or grab things while they are preparing to run. They cannot they cannot plan anything because they are grabbing to run. Because if you are like building for the future, as indeed Mr. Museveni likes to call everybody his Muzukuru, his Mutabani, his what? How can you be the home owner who is planning for all these people and you have not even considered to put something that outlives you, you know, in terms of a home, you know, you are renting
for 37 years.
For 37 years, you know, and it's not that you don't have, but you don't have the means, but it shows the mindset of somebody who has no plan of permanency, who is kwata yechange that is the kind. So I was very glad with NUP. Of course, FDC has been having its home. The quarrels there in the home notwithstanding. And we were able to build that home when there were parties were not receiving money from government. These days parties get money from government, but we were able to mobilize from our own selves private funds to buy land and have a home for the party. But regarding the message that I was giving them, it was about having a country, not having just a home, having a country. Because first of all, Uganda, as I have said many times, was a creation of foreigners. We were many countries, we were many nations that were defeated and joined together by force of a foreigner. Some people who call Buganda a tribal grouping are totally wrong. Buganda was a nation of many types of people. Yeah. They were part of the Buganda nation, part of the Buganda nation. And so were all these nations, Bunyoro, Nkole, they were nations. And since they were grabbed, and I was pointing out that the formal agreement that put at least Buganda under colonial rule was made in 1900. And it meant Buganda became a property, more or less, of the British. And although the kings remained somewhat, they were acting on behalf of the British. They became servants. They were no longer the owners. That's why the Milo land you hear of in Buganda was Milo given out of the Queen's land of England. It was not out of the Buganda land. It was Milo from Crown land. And the titles were clearly headed, Crown land. So it was the Queen of England giving the Kabaka some land, giving the the Saza chiefs some land for, you know. So the country was taken. It was a country of the British, of the sovereign was the British sovereign. And the people of Uganda started fighting to regain their country in all forms until in 1962, when the British realized they could no longer keep on holding our country, they said, have it back. So it took 62 years from 1900 to 62 to remove the British. But when we thought we had regained the control of the land, it soon dawned on us that those who controlled the same guns the British used to rule us then established their own dominion over us and determined what happens. In other words, we still had no power over our country. Those with guns maintained the power, and that's how the kings were deposed by guns, and the chaos ensued. And since then, no leader has ever come out from the people. Yeah. Every leader bombs their way into office. Every leader is bombed out. In other words, the control of the country has remained that of the gunmen. And so our struggle since independence really is to end the control of the country now by black people who, who instead of the Muzungu, instead of the British, they are black British controlling the country. And we want that to end so that people can determine how their country is governed and who governs them. In other words, and when there are elections to determine that, who governs and how they are governed, that election is simply the means of expressing people's consent. But elections, as we have seen, people don't have a vote yet. Because if you have a vote, it means your vote counts. If people say we don't want this, it will change. But here people say we don't want this, and it continues. Even in Parliament, which is supposed to be a representative house, they make a resolution, but those with guns say, no, that will not happen. The courts, which are supposed to exercise power of the people in judgment, the courts make a judgment, they send the military to say, we shall not allow that, and it doesn't happen. So the country is still held captive by gunmen, now the successors of the colonial power. So it means the struggle that has been going on since the 60s is for a second liberation now. Even me, when I went to the bush in the 80s, that's what I thought I was going to contribute to, that we would defeat the guns that had held our country hostage and power returns to the people. Regrettably, that's the transition that the NRM failed to make. So the people of Uganda have to rise up and regain control over their country. And this is what I was saying, that liberation is not a partisan matter. You see, parties form to determine mechanisms of administering the country. Say, this is my program for managing the country. But you only do that when you have power to do so. If you have no power to run the country, there is no way you can start talking about which plans you are going to make. So we must first liberate the country, then political parties can have the power. People can give them power to run the country according to how they think they should be run. And so that's why now, for now, the liberation process must take our united effort, not a partisan effort. We unite and say, you gunmen, we no longer recognize you as our leaders.
But now, don't you think that the opposition is now looking at it from what you're talking about of, it's not time for political parties to be operating because the space is not enabling for them?
Absolutely.
But now we are seeing these same political parties forming headquarters, and it feels like they're going to legitimize. They're legitimizing what is happening.
No.
Feels like the opposition is growing strong in this country.
You see, even when you are struggling, you have a command post. And in fact, this is what I was telling. I was congratulating them for erecting a new command post for the struggle. So even when we were in the bush, we had command posts in the bush, all right, but we would create a command post and put seats where we would sit and deliberate on what we are going to do. So that is not anything wrong. What could be wrong is simply to ignore that you have no power to implement a partisan agenda, that you will not have any power to implement a partisan agenda, and yet you insist on promoting as if you can implement it. You know, to say, for us, we want, for example, there is a popular demand of federal And even there was a party formed by Betty Kamya for nothing else but federalism. It was called
Uganda Federal Alliance.
Which is fine. But how do you get federal when you have no country? You must first get a country, and federal is a system of managing the country. You can't have a system of managing what you don't have. So this is why I'm saying, if you therefore deceive people, and which is what Betty was really doing, you know, I want you to have a referendum on federal. Who will organize the referendum? The institutions that would organize the referendum are captive. They are captured. They are a property of Mr. Museveni. The Electoral Commission, the Uganda police that would provide security to this, the military, the financial institutions, they are all a property of Mr. Museveni. So how can you have a referendum to give you federal? So we must all unite, whether you want federal, whether you want free university education, whether you want whatever program you want, we must first of all unite, reclaim control over the country, establish a fair mechanism on how we shall decide, make those decisions, create the institutions that can help us to make those decisions, institutions that are independent, that are not under the control of individuals, you know. So we will have to create the security institutions of the people, not of so and so. A process that, for example, Kenyans, maybe not to the extent that should have happened, but in a large measure, the Kenyans went through that process of regaining control over the country after Moi, and they fought to get rid of Moi and re-established control. The Kenyans re-established control over the country. They had a constitutional reform process that took time to get people's views. That process created new institutions and maybe reformed the old ones. For example, they did not have counties. Now Kenya is like a federal state.
Yes.
A county runs itself with its governor. So they created those institutions once the people had authority. They created judicial institutions, new judicial institutions, and everybody had to apply to become a judge, to become this, and pass through a new process of appointment that includes public interviews. So that if a judge is appointed a judge in Kenya, they have passed through a test of being interviewed by the people of Kenya.
Yes.
And the judge sits not as a judge of the president, but a judge deriving power from the people of Uganda and can condemn a president. And that's why judges were able to cancel a presidential election in Kenya, which has not been heard of anywhere in most part of Africa. So that is that was my message to the people who had gathered at the National Unity Platform on the occasion of opening their new headquarters.
But do you think the people have accepted that message? Those folks that you were seated with and told
Oh, very much.
Have they? Because it feels like for them it's 2026. Aren't you hearing 2026?
There is that confusion amongst the leaders, but not the population, as you heard, the chorus.
But of course, we get.
Yes, but
our direction is from the leaders.
You see, again, it's the leaders. In fact, it is again President Kyagulanyi who sang. The leaders have become misleaders. That is his song. So many of the people masquerading as leaders are actually misleaders, and that's why we are in the very serious problems that we grapple with. So yes, there are many people in the political elite, in the political class, the people who are considered leaders,
Exactly.
who are motivated not by the desire to change the control of the country, but simply by the desire of having an office, a job, under whatever conditions. Just having a job and getting a salary and getting soldiers to guard them, like I was telling you. And so there are many in the political elite with very limited objectives. And not only limited, but dangerous objectives to the liberation, because those objectives undermine the struggle for liberation. So the message was meant for all, of course, but more so for the people, ordinary people. Why? Because the struggle I was talking about of uniting and saying enough is enough, resisting, protesting, is not one that is primarily driven by these leaders. It's the people themselves. And they have already been doing that, by the way. That's why I've had people say, you know, that leaders are putting people on a dangerous path. They take that we encourage people to demonstrate, and when the police comes, they pick those people and take them and clobber them and kill them and maim them when we are safe, and therefore we are endangering those people.
Yeah.
That is a narrative of the of the criminal rulers, because they present the issue as if we are the beneficiaries of their suffering. The struggle is about them, those who are suffering, regaining control over the country. It's not about, actually, for us, we can enjoy, we can join, we can, if we wanted, we can join
yes, by the way,
the junta and enjoy without the risks that we also go through. But these people who are isolated, who are ignored, who have no say, who have no hope, they are the people actually who must fight and regain control over the country. So we are helping them to assert their will. It's their will that we are all fighting for. It's not mine. It's the people's will. And yes, so if they terrorize the people, it's for that reason, that it's the people indeed whom they are afraid of. They are not afraid of me, they are afraid of the population rising up and saying we shall not have you anymore, because they know if they do that, they are finished. And so that population that should rise, all we do ourselves is give them skills which they may not have, of how to organize, of how to strategize in asserting their will. As you heard in that talk, people were actually demanding to be given guns. To wave Yuma.
Yeah, there are many people who have
yes,
that
to wave Yuma, to wave Yuma. So, you know, that's the level of determination, commitment, anger that they have. It's my duty to guide them that we don't need guns, we need to simply organize ourselves and defeat those with guns. Because if we organize with guns, which is what we did in Ruwero, then we shall become the new gunmen.
Which has been the narrative.
Yes, we may defeat these ones, but become the new problem. So that is our role that should be our role as elites, as leaders, to guide, to inform, to infuse knowledge and skills amongst the people who are fighting to regain control over the country. And if they do, I don't have to stand to benefit anything. Once they have regained control over the country, they will determine who will govern them, how they will be governed. They will determine. And even if I'm still alive, they don't have to determine that me or any of us who were helping them to assert their will that we should be their rulers. No, they themselves can choose amongst themselves who governs.
So it's power back to the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was enthused, I was very, very excited about the response of the people at that function. Because the people at that function are indeed quite representative of what is in Kampala especially. And Kampala, as you know, is very representative of what is in the country. Because
though that some people think that is misleading.
No, it's
or
not.
Inaccurate.
It's not. You see people who think these are urban people, they are the ones who are lost. There is nobody in Kampala who does not have a rural home. Unlike in other places where you find they are urban dwellers who have no, people are born in London, they grow up in London, they have no other place. That's their home. Here, everybody has a home. Will go and you wait in Christmas. Everybody goes home to Arua, to you know, Soroti, to Tororo, to Kabare. Everybody goes home, and that movement is daily. That's why you have all these buses crisscrossing the country.
But
so.
President Museveni is loved in the rural areas, and that is something that is loved in the rural areas.
That's force, absolutely force. Who loves it?
How do you explain the members of parliament from all those rural areas? Most of them
it's rigging. It's easier to rig.
More than 300 members of parliament.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can even have a 100.
That may be misleading.
You can even have 100%.
There are constituencies in this country where the opposition does not even have people come unopposed. Today in 2023.
You see, not because there is no opposition, my dear, and that is, and I'm surprised that you know, a journalist of all people should entertain such views. You go to Kiruhura, where Mr. Museveni comes from. Voting is not secret. Everybody is forced to tick their ballot on the bench in full view of everybody. And this is not a secret. It has been affirmed. It has been, you know, it's not a secret. There is nobody that you send an agent of an opposition party to go and stand there that I'm the agent of Kizza Besigye in Rushere. It can't happen. They'll straight away be beaten and taken to prison. And this has happened. And it's recorded, it's on record, in court records, you know. So it's a fallacy. It's a narrative they want to build, that And like all dictators, by the way, all the African dictators have the same narrative. We are popular in the rural. Why in the rural areas? Why are you popular in the rural areas?
It's because Uganda is not about Kampala.
Okay, fine. So what difference is there in the people who reside in the rural areas that makes you more popular there than the ones who have newspapers, who have more information? Why would you be more popular there? And you are proud that I am popular in the villages, not anywhere else, you know? That is, it's a lie. It's a simple lie. You have a democratic process and see. Just have a democratic process and see. I am sure Museveni could lose an election in his own home. I am sure. And this is because, you see, these dictators are so selfish, you know. You know, one time I went to, in one of these campaigns, I went to Rushere, which is his hometown. And I asked the people, said, how much do you sell a bottle of milk here? And they said, I think 300 or 200.
200.
I said, and how much do you buy a bottle of water? I said, oh, by the way.
They had never thought about it. Yes. Even up to today, there are constituencies that have milk of, a liter of milk at 200.
And I said, this is the headquarters of the president. That is the injustice you suffer. And they could, of course, relate to it. You buy acaricides to kill ticks, you buy, you know, to deworm your drugs to deworm your cows, you buy, they are quarantined, vaccinated with all these kinds of things, or you pay, but you have no money from milk. Money that comes from a borehole, I mean water that comes from a borehole, nothing, just as it is, you are paying 1,000 for you, your milk, nothing. And they can relate with it. So they don't have to like me, but the facts are there for them to see. You see? So it's a lie. It's a lie. There is the people in Museveni's home are as poor, as neglected as that, and he takes pride in it. You know, I hear people because they run from the bushes and he says they ambush him. They come from the bushes and stand in the road to beg.
Doctor, as we come to the end, Doctor, as we come to the end, how do you explain the NRM having at least like 5 representatives in every village, which is not something that the opposition has?
That's a lie, my dear. I can tell you even official results, and I can produce.
The NRM has got.
A
person in every village.
I can produce official results of elections where NRM is getting 0 at a polling station. 0. So where are the 5 people they are talking about if they cannot have 0? So it means they even had no agent, or the agent didn't vote for them. 0. And these are results of rigged elections. Even with the rigging, there are results where they have 0. So you are just listening to their propaganda. It's propaganda. Absolutely. Who cannot relate with the injustice that is everywhere? You know, these people I was telling you who are running away from their homes, who are they? Poor village women who are running away from their homes due to deaths.
Doctor, because of time, we've come to the end. Please just submit on that and just give us a parting shot.
Well, unfortunately, time is not our best ally. There were many issues we were still to discuss.
Yes, sir.
But all of these, as you realize, dear friends, revolve around gross injustice that is perpetuated by our leaders, unjust political systems. And as I started, these are not just here in Uganda.
Yes, sir.
They are prevalent over Africa, and it is incumbent upon us to end injustice. We shall never have peace with injustice. We shall never have stability with injustice. We shall never have sustainable growth and development with injustice. Let's work together to establish a just system for ourselves. And that's what our struggle is for. I thank you for tuning in once again, and Godspeed.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Lastly, Mpawa Talikaba, The Halloween Bus is the book that you should get. This book is written by an author called Norman Tumuhimbise, and of course it's about the years of NRM, starting from the times of the war in 1980, and of course what transpired there, and of course bringing it back to the reality of what Uganda looks like in 2023. You can just grab this copy by calling this number, because you won't find this book in any bookstore. So just call 0701-800-212 or 0783 047785. Thank you so much for watching from the time we started 2 hours ago up to now. Thank you so much for watching. We shall be returning next Friday at exactly 12 midday to 2 p.m. Please do tune in at that time. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. We are at The Alternative Uganda, at Digitalk TV, and retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye Kifefe. You can also find that video on his particular page, so please do go there. And of course, after this we post it on YouTube, so you can be able to watch it from there. In case you know Facebook is still having challenges in Uganda, we're still under lockdown, so you can just go and find these videos on YouTube. It's at Digitalk TV and at The Alternative Uganda. From the entire team, we would love to wish you a very beautiful afternoon and a very pleasant weekend. And of course, to the Chabazinga of Busoga, William Wilberforce, Nadiope Gabula Kadumbula Wokuna, we wish you all the best in your upcoming wedding that is coming on tomorrow. So see you guys next Friday at exactly 12 midday. My name is Edgar. Good afternoon.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.